You deserve it. That's what the advertisement claimed. On the next page of another paper ad, you deserve a break. Be good to yourself. Well, what do you deserve? What's right? What is justice? And so Jesus tells a story. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing around in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I'll pay you what's right." They went. Then he went out again about noon, and about 3 o'clock he did the same. And about 5 o'clock he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." Now when those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour. You've made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong." God says, Jesus is like a farmer who had grapes to harvest. He goes to town at dawn, contracts with some workers. They go to work, agreeing to work for the usual daily wage. At mid-morning, he's back downtown. He hires more workers. They go to work. At noon, he's back saying, "Come work for me, I'll pay you what's right." At 3 in the afternoon, he's back. You can imagine who's left at the unemployment office by this time of the day. People nobody else wants. Still, he invites, they go to work. 1 hour before quitting time, he's back. No self-respecting boss wants the folk who've been passed over by everybody else, who've been hanging out all day on the street corner, except this boss. At quitting time, the boss calls everybody in and pays everybody the same wage, even if they've only worked an hour. Well, they're murmurings of injustice. What about those of us who worked all day? We're being treated just like those guys that showed up just before quitting time. It isn't right. Well, what is right? First day of class. The professor says, "Now, this is a class in advanced mathematics. Your entire grade will be determined by your success in solving a complex mathematical problem. And I want everyone to get an A. So I'm going to give you the problem to be solved today, first class. And I urge you to begin work right away because I want everyone to get an A." Well, you don't want to have happen what happened to you last semester, so you began to work the next day. And sure enough, the problem is a real killer. You set aside some time to work on it every day. But you are surprised a bit when at a party on campus you run into Jane. She says, "Hey, aren't you in that math class with me? Didn't that professor give out some kind of problem the first class? I need to get that sometime." She hasn't even begun. Wow, is she in for a shock? Well, you continue to work on the problem and making headway each day. 1 week before the end of the semester, you see George. "Hey man, I really need to get going on that math problem for our final." Is he kidding? He hasn't even begun. There's no way he'll get it done. Last day of class, professor says, "Now class, hand in your final exams." And you proudly bring your papers forward. You've bought one of those great blue folders. Teachers like those. "Good work," says the professor, looking over your paper. Yeah, looks like you got yourself an A right here." But you are shocked to see Jane come forward and hand in her paper. How did she get it done? You're about to find out. "Thanks for helping me. I've learned more in this class than I have ever taken before. There aren't many professors who are willing to go out and tutor a student 3 afternoons a week." George comes forth. He hands in his paper. He says, You know, I've never done this well on an exam, but of course then I never had a professor who the night before the exam came to my dorm at midnight to help me over the hump. Oh, I'm sorry, what my roommate yelled out when you knocked on the door. He never expected a professor to be in the dorm in the middle of the night. I hope you got some sleep this morning. The outrage of it all. You grumble to the professor. She has the nerve to look surprised. Didn't I say first class that I wanted everyone to get an A? Well, you got an A. Rejoice. The others needed a little bit of help. I'm a teacher. I teach. You look at your A, it was what you wanted, but somehow it doesn't feel like an A. Now that everybody's got one, what were these midnight forays into the dorm and spoon-feeding to these idiots? You grumble. You know, that's not how we think of what's right, is it? Over the front door of our courthouse, there is a statue of a blindfolded woman. She holds scales in one hand, a sword in the other. She is Lady Justice. That's our view of justice. Blind, no partiality, dispassionate, disengaged, cool and calm. Well, Jesus indicates another sort of justice, another definition of what's right. Here is a God who does not, thank God, give us what we deserve. We don't get our just deserts. We get a God who seeks, who intrudes, who reaches. We get a God who just won't rest until everybody, no matter what hour they showed up, has joined the party. And Jesus says God is the great farmer who's more interested in recruitment, inviting, seeking, finding people to work on his farm than in the harvest. Oh, how this view of God collides with much that we think. In the modern world, God is the great bureaucrat in the sky, just following the rules, treating everybody the same, saying, they know my office hours, let them come to me if they need me. I'm not going out to them. Deistic, distant, calm, cool, detached, and aloof. You know, you look back over your life, and in sober moments you realize all the ways that you've disappointed yourself and God. All the times when you failed, when you knew better, and all the wrong that you did because you didn't know better. Would you really want a God who gives you what you really deserve? Sometimes I think of my life as the sum of my achievements. I got what I got because I worked hard. I earned it. I deserved it. But in rare moments of honesty, I know most of what I got came as gift, grace, unearned, undeserved. In my life, I've never gotten what I deserved. I got more. Oh, so much more. And that's good. That's good. Except when it's God's graciousness that's your graciousness. Look, I've been in church all my life. Don't I deserve something special for that? You want to know how many sermons I've suffered through, both on the giving and the receiving end? You want to know how good I've been, even when I didn't want to? How hard I've worked to get in good with God? And for you, of all people, who don't know as much about the Bible as I know, to waltz in here at the midnight hour just because you think God has got this thing for you, loves you, is willing to forgive you for everything, and is just dying to have you work for Him, well, I grumble